June 6, 1944. 160,000 Allied troops are about to storm Nazi-occupied France in the largest amphibious invasion in human history. But here's what nobody tells you. This invasion didn't succeed because of bravery or tactics. It succeeded because of accountants, truck drivers, and the most insane logistical operation ever conceived. And if they'd gotten one calculation wrong, Hitler would have won World War II. So how do you secretly move an entire army across 100 miles of ocean, land them on enemy beaches, and keep them supplied with millions of bullets, thousands of vehicles, and enough food to feed a small country? Let's break down the impossible logistics behind D-Day. First, let's understand the sheer scale of what the Allies were attempting. These numbers are genuinely insane. On D-Day alone, the Allies moved 160,000 troops, 5,000 ships and landing craft, 11,000 aircraft, 50,000 vehicles including 2,000 tanks, enough ammunition to supply 20 full-scale battles, 7 million meals, and 450,000 tons of supplies. To put that in perspective, that's like evacuating the entire population of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, putting them on boats, flying them across water under enemy fire, and feeding them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all in one day. And here's the kicker: they had to do all this in secret. If Germany knew the exact date and location, they'd mass their forces and it would be a slaughter. So how do you hide the movement of 160,000 people? The answer: you build an entire fake army. The deception plan was called Operation Fortitude, and it might be the greatest military magic trick ever pulled off. The Allies created an entirely fictional army group, the First U.S. Army Group, or FUSAG, supposedly commanded by General Patton. They built inflatable rubber tanks that looked real from the air, fake landing craft made of wood and canvas, dummy aircraft that couldn't fly, fake radio traffic with thousands of fake messages, even fake laundry lines with uniforms drying. And it worked. German reconnaissance planes photographed this massive fake army near Dover, the closest point to France. Hitler and his generals became convinced the invasion would hit Pas-de-Calais, not Normandy. But deception alone wasn't enough. They still had to actually move 160,000 real troops to the real invasion site, and that's where the logistics got truly mind-bending. Starting in 1942, southern England became the largest military camp in human history. American GIs called it one giant depot from London to Land's End. Here's what they stockpiled: 20 million meals, already prepared and packaged, 54 million gallons of gasoline, 124,000 hospital beds set up in England, 2.5 million maps of Normandy, 11 million cigarettes. Yes, this was considered essential. But storing it wasn't the hard part. The hard part was organizing it, so the right supplies arrived at the right beaches at the right time. Every single item was color-coded and numbered. Red supplies for Omaha Beach, blue for Gold Beach, green for Juno Beach, each crate marked with exactly which day it should be opened. A single bottle of plasma could be traced from a warehouse in Birmingham to a specific medic on a specific beach. They invented the modern supply chain by necessity because running out of bullets on D-Day +3 wasn't an option. But even with perfect organization, they had one massive problem. How do you unload 50,000 vehicles onto beaches with no ports? The Allied solution was completely insane. They built their own portable harbors and towed them across the English Channel. These were called Mulberry Harbors, and each one was 2 miles long, made of 600,000 tons of concrete, complete with floating piers, roads, and breakwaters, capable of unloading 12,000 tons of supplies per day. The British spent 2 years secretly building these harbors in sections, then towed them across 100 miles of ocean and assembled them on the Normandy coast within days of the landing. Within 1 week of D-Day, these artificial harbors were unloading more supplies than the port of Dover. and they were built on enemy beaches under artillery fire. Then disaster struck. On June 19th, the worst English Channel storm in 40 years destroyed the American Mulberry Harbor. Engineers thought the invasion might have to be called off. But here's where the logistics really shine. Within 48 hours, engineers improvised a new system using sunken ships as breakwaters and landing craft driven directly onto the beaches at high tide. They kept the supply chain flowing without missing a single delivery. So did it work? Let's look at the numbers. By D-Day +12, June 18th, 629,000 troops landed. That's one soldier every 1.6 seconds for 12 days straight. 95,000 vehicles unloaded. 218,000 tons of supplies delivered. Only 2% of supplies lost or damaged. Zero supply shortages reported. To put this in modern context, the Allies moved more tonnage across the English Channel in June 1944 than Amazon ships globally in an entire week, and they did it without computers, GPS, or forklifts. They even built an underwater fuel pipeline called Pluto, pipeline under the ocean, that pumped 1 million gallons per day from England to France. They literally laid pipeline on the ocean floor to keep tanks fueled. And it paid off. By August 1944, Allied forces had broken out of Normandy and were racing toward Germany. The invasion succeeded not because of superior firepower or tactics, but because accountants calculated exact fuel consumption rates and truck drivers delivered supplies on time, every time. Here's what's crazy. D-Day logistics were so revolutionary that we still use their innovations today. Modern supply chain management, invented for D-Day. Container shipping and color coding systems, D-Day, just-in-time delivery. That's literally what they had to do on Normandy beaches. Amazon's predictive shipping. D-Day quartermasters did that with paper and pencil. We remember D-Day for the soldiers storming the beaches, and we should. But behind every soldier was a logistician who calculated how many bullets he'd need, when he'd need food, and where to send reinforcements if he got wounded. They fought the war with spreadsheets, maps, and perfect timing. And honestly, that's way more impressive than any battle strategy. So the next time someone tells you D-Day succeeded because of bravery, remind them, bravery doesn't mean anything if you run out of ammunition on day 3. The real heroes of D-Day were the ones you never hear about. The planners who spent 2 years organizing the impossible, the engineers who built harbors in the middle of the ocean, and the truck drivers who delivered 7 million meals under enemy fire. That's the hidden story of D-Day. If you want more history they didn't teach you in school, subscribe for new videos every Monday and Thursday. And if you learned something new today, drop a like and let me know in the comments. What logistical fact surprised you most? See you next time. History is always more complicated than they tell you.